I got to say, I enjoy being around Danny. He's got so much energy. One of those guys you always want to be around, I know, and I really enjoyed always chatting with Danny.
I love Talley's personality and then his intentionality about coming back and really speaking some words of wisdom to young players.
It's nice to see everybody here, and we're all complimenting each other so well. I love to see that. Darryl, it's been a while. Lorenzo, I've never met you, but I've never met you, but I always enjoyed your play. I hope you come back another year and don't retire.
Throw right side, nobody there, and he goes down. He is
sacked. And Stu Barnes, my man.
Over the line to Barnes with a shot. He scores! Stu Barnes!
The way he played the game, always a consummate professional, and gave everything he had, and I know you're continuing that path in hockey now.
People from Buffalo, guys that play there, usually wind up finding each other and usually having a good time once they meet each other.
Not only did we play hard, we worked hard at the game too, so it was fun to get together and spend some time with all of them.
That is it. That's true. We're all from different parts of the country, and then you find a guy that's got a personality similar to yours that wants to be out there having fun, enjoying the people, and having a good time. And that's basically what we had there as far as the Sabres and the Bills.
Welcome to Captain's Circle, presented by Labatt Blue Light, the third in a series of special events we're hosting this summer to celebrate leadership and foster discussions between captains of the Sabres and Bills. And in this episode, we have four captains whose careers spanned over 5 decades of Buffalo sports, but never did their careers overlap in our city. In Danny Gare's first season with the Buffalo Sabres, he tied for the team lead in playoff goals with 7, helping his squad to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. In his playoff career here, no player scored more overtime or game-winning goals as a Sabre than Danny. In Stu Barnes' first season with the Buffalo Sabres, he had a team-high 7 playoff goals, tied for the team lead, and led his team to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. In Stu's playoff career in Buffalo, no player scored more overtime goals or game winners than Stu. Great to have both these former Sabre captains with us today. Maddie?
I'd like to introduce 2 former Bills linebackers you don't want to mess with. 2 leaders who captained the Bills during very different eras. First, Darryl Talley, who played 12 seasons for the Bills and is Buffalo's all-time leading tackler, racking up 1,137 tackles, a 2-time Pro Bowler and a Bills Wall of Fame member who never missed a game in those 12 seasons. And then there's Lorenzo Alexander, who played just 4 seasons with the Bills, but sometimes I think it was 12 seasons too, with the impact that he made on the team and in the community with his leadership skills. Lorenzo was the Bills captain for 3 straight years, a 2-time Pro Bowler, and posted 12.5 sacks in his first season with the Bills. Now, this episode is all about the leadership skills and all about your captaincy on your teams. Darryl, during your era, a lot of the responsibilities of a captain were split with each other. And we had Jim Kelly on last week, and he spoke to your leadership qualities as being a vocal leader in the locker room. I'd like you to share what some of those examples were of you establishing a team culture and how you saw your responsibilities as a leader.
I've never told this story out loud, but I will tell it today. We're playing in Rich Stadium. We're playing the Houston Oilers. And Warren Moon's having his way with us, which everybody knows. And they're doing everything they could do to us, running up and down the field on us like we were Swiss cheese. We go in at halftime. I'm mad. I'm yelling at everybody. We better start playing the second half. If we don't, I said a few other words in between. There were a lot of explicit non-words that I would like to use on this air that I used. And I told him, I said, if you don't go back out there and play, we're going to fight. I would fight anybody. And I told him, we're going to go back out here and fight, or we're going to fight. Right when Chris Dishman intercepted the ball, run the ball back for the touchdown, I looked at Eddie Abramowski and Mark Pike. And I said, don't worry, I got him right where I want. And they both looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Leonard Smith had got a penalty for hitting the guy out of bounds. And I told Marv, I said, Coach, leave him alone. I told him to hit everybody. Hit them all, because I didn't want anybody to walk off that field. I said, if they walk off this field, they will not play next week. they're not us. From that point forward, we decided to dismantle the Houston Oilers. And it all started because of a threat. So I did hold up my end of the bargain. I cussed everybody out,
Nice.
fought with them, but we got it done.
Great.
Well, certainly in this episode, guys, we want to touch on how captains earn the respect of their teammates and earn the role of captain. We dubbed this gearing up for greatness by establishing yourself as a leader on a team. How does one do that? Stu, for you, I mean, it was your fourth stop in the NHL. How did you earn that respect after a little bit of time here in Buffalo to wear the C?
I think for me, I learned early on in my career. I was fortunate to play for Lindy Ruff, who was our head coach there in Buffalo, and a guy named Roger Nielsen, who you guys know in the hockey world. What a great man he was, and really taught me the right way to play the game day after day, how to be a good pro. And then I think over the years leading up to my time in Buffalo, I tried to stay with that. When I got in Buffalo, you mentioned the 7 goals in playoffs that year, but I'm glad you glossed over the 27-game goalless drought that preceded that, Duffer. That was, but I appreciate that. I'll bring it up now, just in the sense of, as frustrating as it was, I really just kind of stayed to try to be the same person and try to be a good teammate, try to be, work hard on the ice, do the right things day after day after day. And I think that probably, people looked at me like, hey, this guy's, somewhat level-headed as far as handling stress at the rink every day. And then I think just trying to be a good teammate, like we talked about, trying to be someone that, as Darryl mentioned, when things are rough, that you have the ability to stand up and challenge teammates, challenge yourself. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to lead by example. If there was an uncomfortable situation, say, hey guys, this isn't good enough. We've got to be better, and we've got to move forward here and try to represent, myself, my teammates, and the logo as best I can. And
Darryl, you were part of the Bills for the 4 straight Super Bowls runs, but you were also a part of this team long before they ascended to greatness. You experienced back-to-back 2-14 seasons in 84 and 85, being an important piece to turning this team into the success that we've all seen. And you just spoke to the vocal leadership skills that you provided to a team and being vocal in times where it was tough and where you had to demand more out of your teammates. Do you have a moment where you realized just how much of a captain you were to the team?
Basically, and that all comes from having good leaders before I got there, because I had Phil Villapiano, Sherman White, and the late Ben Williams as leaders that showed me and taught me the ropes and what I needed to do to become a better pro. That's the hard part for a lot of people. A lot of people don't understand what it is to be a pro. To be a pro means to do your job, to help someone, and to always be looking for that next person that's going to need something. If you don't look at it that way, then you're really not a team player, and you're really not going to go that far, because everybody always told me, a chain's only as strong as its weakest link. And like I told our guys, I said, if I'm the weakest link on this chain, it'll never break.
What was it like to have conversations with teammates during the tough times just as much as the good times?
I can tell you one particular story. We're playing in New York. Bruce Smith is sick. We're out there playing, and he's over on the sideline sick, sipping some soup, Campbell's chicken noodle soup on the sideline. And I'm out here getting my tail kicked. I told him, I said, look, you got to get off the bench and come out here and help me. You got to come help me fight. I'm out here fighting by myself. And there's 2 of them and there's only 1 of me. So you need to get up and come help me now. And I'm yelling at him in the game on the sidelines. He's sick. He looks up at me. He throws his suit down. He comes back out on the field and plays.
Words can be so powerful on the field and off the field. But more than words, sometimes actions can be just as powerful. Speaking of actions, you wore Spider-Man sleeves in a lot of your games. So tell me about the persona of Spider-Man and how that played into you as a player, as a leader, as a person, as a football player.
Well, Spider-Man, as you know, has always arrived just in time, in the nick of time to help somebody out. And as a player, I like to think of myself as a guy that's going to arrive right in time to make the play or to help somebody else, or I will be that guy that provides you with the information. Spider-Man, in my opinion, is always somebody that's trying to help someone. He's trying to get his friends out of trouble. He doesn't want anybody to go down a wrong path. So he tries to steer them down the right way. And that was basically what I did. I tried to use my long arms to catch people and drag them down from the back. So, yes, I identified a lot with Spider-Man.
Danny, what changed for you when you became captain? Because it wasn't like the guy that you were, taking the C from was leaving. I mean, Jim Schoenfeld was still a big part of the team. So what changed, and how did you change for that letter to be bestowed upon you?
That's a good question. And when I look back at it, to me, I thought Jim Schoenfeld was one of the best leaders and captains I'd ever played with. And I played with some real good ones and guys like Yzerman and Messier and so forth. But Shoney had a difference of philosophy with Punch Imlach in that time period. And I remember coming into training camp, and Marcel Pronobo was our head coach at the time. And I think it was my fourth year, I can't remember. But it was, Shoney had some issues with the captaincy with Punch and back and forth and so forth in the off season. And what happened was Marcel called us, myself, Gilbert, and Shoney into his room, this little room in the old auditorium. He sits us down and says, "Look at guys," he said, I've decided that I'd like you all to be co-captain. Sitting there, I didn't say anything because I felt, amongst those two players, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and listen to what, they were going to say. And Shoney said, "No, I'm not, that's not going to work for me," or something of that sort. And then Gilbert sat there in his way, just contemplated a little bit and sat, and he turns and he points to me. "Danny should be captain." And it was like shocking, but honoring. It was something that I just didn't know what to say. And Shoney goes, "Yeah, I agree. Danny should be the captain." I'd be honored again. Is what I'd love to be a captain here for this team because we had a great team at the time, a good mix of veterans and youth and so forth. So I said, "But before I go into that room, I want both of you to introduce me to the team as a captain." And they did that, and everything just went smoothly after that. They were guys that understood what the situation was. Punch ended up leaving later and so forth and so on. But no, there was always a great respect and great relationship for both those guys from me anyways. And I think it was vice versa.
Lorenzo, you reinvented yourself throughout your NFL career, from offensive line to tight end to fullback to defensive line to special teams to dropping 71 pounds to become a linebacker. I mean, you did not give up in your 15 seasons in the NFL. It would be easy for someone to say, "I'm done with this," after switching 5 different positions, but you decided to stay in it. And by the time you got to Buffalo, it was your 6th team, and it was your most productive stop in the NFL. So how did you establish yourself as a leader and help see the Bills out of a playoff drought, through rebuild, and then back into the playoffs?
I think just consistency. You kind of talked about my career there, and I think just being a consistent dude throughout that time, where I played with a lot of guys that was on this Bills team in prior situations, whether it was with some of the other teams that I played with priorly. And so when I walked into this locker room, I think a lot of guys knew who I was. And I think that's key to understanding, always building great relationships, because you never know when you're going to come back in contact with somebody. So you never want to burn any bridges or treat anybody wrongly, because at some point you're going to intersect again. We all know the NFL is a very small and intimate group, just like sports in general. And so being able to come into this locker room, there were already, 4 or 5 guys that I had played with. And so I think there was a comfort level there. It was really just, continue to be myself. It's not like I tried to do anything differently. I wanted to show up, just be productive and be able to help guys. And I was later in my career, so I already understood. I didn't have to prove myself. I knew I could play in the league. And so it was about just working with these guys. And then through the off-season training, through training camp, those bonds are formed. And I think people just naturally gravitate towards certain guys. And fortunately, for me, I'm one of those guys. And so it was not me doing anything special or out of the ordinary. I think it's like, what Darryl said, just showing up, doing your job, trying to help other people. And I think people recognize when you see men like that and they want to gravitate towards you. And then I benefited, I think, from, Rex Ryan was a head coach at the time, and be able to move around in his defense and have an opportunity to start for my first time and not being solely put in the box of a special teams guy. I was able to come out and really just show my worth and my value, which I think a lot of guys have. They just rarely get that opportunity. So just taking advantage of the moment. And I think also not thinking more of myself at that time, too. I think humility played a huge part in that, because I didn't say, well, I'm too good for special teams now. I'm getting all these sacks, so I can't play special teams. I still show by example. Even though I was a starting linebacker, I told, hey, put me out there because I can do this as well and help the team in that regard as well. And I think, as Darryl said, people recognize that about, individuals. And so I tried to be that every single day for my teammates, and just, show them the right way about how to approach not only ball, but in life as well, being a servant leader.
How much does leadership and just being a captain tie into receiving just one opportunity and having one person believe in you? So you have that avenue to be able to showcase your skill set, to be able to showcase these qualities, to then become a leader.
You talk about being a professional, being accountable, being prepared, all those things, whether or not you have to see on your chest or not, those are things that you're trying to display every single day when you show up in that locker room, because nobody comes in there, as a captain or as a leader, but you're trying to develop that in yourself. And so as you're developing these characteristics, and I had some great examples, I played with London Fletcher, I played with Larry Fitzgerald, I played with guys like James Thrash, just a lot of great examples of what leadership looked like. And so I really pretty much just adopted those principles in my life. And so when I did get my opportunity, and I used to have another coach in Buffalo, Danny Smith, said everybody's going to get exposure, but it's either going to be good exposure or bad exposure. And so he said that all the time. So I made sure that when I had my opportunity, I was prepared, and then I knew what I was going to do. And so I had the confidence to go out there and do it. And I was ready to take the opportunity. And when I got it, I was able to shine.
Well, Darryl set the bar pretty high with his story about how the team, in part to his doing, came back against Houston. I want to know, as a captain, guys, were there games for you that were not going the right way? And as a leader, you distinctly helped turn things around.
Yeah, I can remember a time. This was around, I can't remember the year, but I remember Philadelphia had put together the dream team, right? They had Vic, they had Nnamdi Asomugha, they had brought all these pieces in, and we actually went down to Philly, and they got to a great start and was kind of whooping us a little bit. The score wasn't huge in the way, but you could just feel the physicality of the game and how they were kind of dominating the line of scrimmage. And at this time, I still was a special teams player. And still at this time, I wasn't a big talker quite yet. I hadn't grown into that confidence level, because, as you know, if you say something, you got to go out there and back it up. And I was more of staying in my box of, I'm just going to do my role and help the team in any type of way I can. And so there was a special teams play, kickoff. I don't even remember the dude's name. Before all the rules changed, you would kind of loop behind the kicker before things started. And we kicked it off. He's running down, I'm running down, I'm unblocked. We messed the scheme Danny Smith put in, they messed it up, and I smacked this dude. Bam! And you could hear the whole stadium, and we was in Philly. Everybody goes, ooh. So the whole sideline got juiced, got excited, and from that hit, the momentum of the game shifted, and we actually figured out how to weigh a win. And so I didn't necessarily say something, but just going out there with the intentionality of trying to make a statement and show guys, hey, we can play with these cats. Don't worry about it. I got you. We're just as physical. We're just as talented as them.
Danny, Stu?
I think the one that I recall, Duffer, is was against the Islanders in the playoffs. The game I recall was a game where it was very close here at the Auditorium game. I believe it was game 5 or 6. Gary Hart cross-checked me and put me down, and I ended up going off the ice with about 2 minutes to go. We were down a goal against the Islanders, and coming out. And I remember in the dressing room, Craig Ramsey and my good line mates and Don Luce, and I was pissed. I was just so mad. I wanted to do something to get a reaction, to get us going. And Rammer, I said, I'm going to go after somebody. And he says, you got to be smart. Just be smart. Just be smart. So, and we didn't want to take a stupid penalty, but I remember coming out and the puck went down in their corner, and Clark Gillies and Clark was a big enforcer at the time, and back then a lot of fighting went on in the game, and I tangled with a lot of people, but this guy I never tangled with. He was 6'3", 225. Mm-hmm. Jetro was his nickname, obviously, and I played against him in junior in Regina, and we never fought, but I always respected him. And anyways, we went at it, and it went forever and ever, it seemed. And it was probably one of the better fights that I'd had. And he said the same thing later when I talked to him. But after it was over, he looked at me, and all he did was he winked at me. And we both went to the penalty box. That was it. We ended up tying the game and getting back into overtime. And I believe we lost the game to a squibbly shot by Bert Marshall. But, yeah, that was probably the moment that I remember. Like Lorenzo said, you have to be prepared to do whatever you have to do, whatever it takes in order to turn the momentum around. And I tried to do that. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in the end. But
yeah, that's, those are just great stories, guys. And I mean, it's amazing how you relate to just those stories. I can't think of one particular event, but those stories just ring so true. You try to do your best, and especially, when times are in tougher times, when you're down in a series or in a game, or you need to make a big impact play, as Lorenzo mentioned. But certainly, I know over the course of my career, I used to get a little frustrated when things didn't go well. And there's a couple sticks broken over top of the boards and things like that over the years, or over a post if one went in. But you know what? You try to gather yourself and continue to move forward and set a good example as far as determination and things like that. You have an injury, you play through an injury, things like that really show that you care more about the team than you do about your own personal success. And those stories you guys have passed along are exactly that.
Well, a captain is someone who has proven that he can tackle challenges head on and often overcome the odds that might be stacked against them. And because of that, Maddie, I think it's very fitting that we should, raise a blue light here in honor, so we can cheers our captains and do this correctly. And the stories keep flowing. And Maddie, we're eager to learn more about the challenges these guys have overcome.
What's a difficulty or a challenge that you've been presented at any point in your career, before professional, when you're playing in the professional leagues, and how did you overcome it? Lorenzo, let's start with you.
I guess right now, my son is in here, so you can see him. He's,
cool.
This is one of my current.
All right.
Of course, they want to come when you know that you're videotaping. They want to come and talk to you and hang out right now. But I think life is obviously sprinkled with adversity, and being able to overcome that and learn from those times really allows you to obviously grow as a person, but then to use that wisdom that you learn to give back. My father wasn't in my life growing up, but I had my uncle that stepped in, and he really helped me understand what a man should look like, what a father should look like, how to be successful in life. And so that was a huge part of my life growing up. And I think because I had him, it allowed me to understand how to overcome adversity. And so I didn't get drafted. I think that was a huge part. But once I got in the league, once you kind of get solidified and you're playing your dream, I think one of the biggest things that hit me that I had to overcome was my Liz Frank injury. I had just become a free agent, signed a pretty solid free agent deal in Arizona. I was kind of making that transition from a special teams player to a linebacker, but I tore my Liz Frank, and that was the first time I suffered a significant injury where I actually missed games. I think I was like maybe 9 or 10 years into my career. And, it's all about, for me, how was I going to handle that moment? Oftentimes you see guys kind of become ghosts in a sense where you don't see them around. Like, where do they go? And I had already built relationships. I was looked at as a leader in some ways. And so for me, it was about, trying to overcome my own pain because I wanted to play. And so I think a lot of guys just kind of stay away from the facility because you hearing the game plan, you're watching guys practice. And so you want to be a part of that, so they kind of stay away. But I didn't want to do that because I knew I could still provide some value as far as I'm watching film with some young guys. Hey, you may want to try to do this. I'm at a game, I could be on the sideline. Hey, you may want to think about doing this. So I tried to find a way where I could just be another coach and just still be their brother. But it was very hard because I did want to be out on the field. I did want to play. I was going through an injury that I was told that possibly could end my career. And I think, I thought I was helping them, but being around those men and the way they supported me through that time gave me a lot of strength and energy to kind of fight and get back and want to be around those guys kind of moving forward.
Yeah, I think overcoming obstacles really shows what type of leader and what type of person you are. So, Stu, is there time in your career that you can point to where you had to overcome adversity?
I think from the outside looking in, everybody always thinks it's all shiny and everything's great and easy and all that kind of thing. But it's difficult. I was always told when I was younger that you'll never play. You're too small. You're not big enough to play in the pro levels. And so for me, it was almost a badge of honor that it was kind of like, hey, I'm going to show people that despite the fact that I'm not a big guy, I'm going to be able to handle myself in these situations. And that's what I try to do for most of my career. So, I think every player that reaches that level, I think has challenges, certainly throughout the course of their career and then leading up to it as well. And I think you just try to continue to stay focused and when things go the wrong way, you've got to, rise up and keep working and keep going and hopefully, that gets you to the end goal that you're looking for. And those are times that you learn to be a leader and you learn to be a team player and you learn to handle yourself the right way and do the right things to try to set examples. You're helping yourself in the short term, but in the meantime, you're setting examples for other players within the team or in the organization. This is how to handle yourself and how to move forward.
When I hear Stu talking about being a little guy, I get that because I was small in stature. It was my late father that really helped me mentor me in order to overcome those difficulties. So I really had good direction from him. He told me, this is what I had to do, work on my upper body strength. I had to shoot, numerous pucks every day in order to have a good asset or a good shot because I was a winger. And then I learned how to box because back then there was a lot of fighting, but I really think that helped me to be, a little tougher in that regard mentally. And I think the hardest time for me, if there's one moment, was when I was traded to Detroit. Big challenge, and my wife was pregnant at the time. It was just a tough. My dad was just diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, so things were very, very difficult. And Detroit was not a good team. They were called the Dead Wings instead of the Red Wings. So I went there with Jim Schoenfeld, Bob Sobey, and Derek Smith, and Mike Foligno came here with Brent Peterson and Dale McCourt. It was a massive trade. They were going in different directions, both teams. When I got there, it was very difficult for a year or so. We didn't make the playoffs, but I became Mike Ilitch, bought the team. The next year, he made me his first captain, which was a great honor. And we made the playoffs 3 of the 4 years that I was there. And the city was great, too. So, yeah, I enjoyed my time, but it was tough at the early part of it.
Darryl, do you have a moment in your career where you faced adversity and had to overcome it?
Quite honestly, yes. I had it when I was in college, right after my freshman year in college. I had a pinched nerve in my neck and shoulder, and I lost all of the muscle on my left side, my arm, my back, everything. I couldn't even pick up a broomstick. Coaches had told me that I wouldn't play football ever again. And my dad said, wait a minute, these guys in West Virginia don't know what they're talking about. He says, tell the doctors, send me your records. We're going to go to Cleveland Clinic. We'll figure it out. Before they would do that, they wanted me to go to one more doctor. So I went to another doctor. His name was A. James Manchin, and he was an occupational therapist. He broke up some calcium deposits in my neck on the left side, which allowed me to actually use my arms and regain my strength. So I went on to play in college, make the Kodak All-American team and everything, and get drafted and play 14 years in the National Football League. But I was not going to be able to play after my freshman year at school. So that was a huge battle for me to come over.
Well, this is a unexpected segue, but Danny, you did it for us because of that gripping story about what was going on in your life when you were traded. And I really wanted to hear from all of you, what is it like when you are no longer the captain? Danny gets traded as a captain. Stu got traded as a captain. Lorenzo, you retired as a captain after working so hard to get to that level. And Darryl, I mean, you were with the Bills for so long, but your career didn't end in Buffalo. So, beyond Danny's story, guys, what changes? What's life like when you're not the captain anymore?
I'll tell you what it was like for me. I mean, when the cheering stops, it sort of all goes away and it's just quiet. And then reality starts to sink in on some folks. And you got to go get a job or go find something else to do. Some people lose their identity as to who they are. I didn't necessarily lose my identity. I just was lost in not knowing where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do next. I had never plan for a succession plan in playing football. So that's something that was my fault. I didn't do that because it wasn't taught to you. Nobody came along and showed you how to put those things together. You learn those as you grow as an NFL player. And then you have people that are around you to supposedly to help you and teach you to do things the right way.
I have actually, I guess 2 times where I transitioned, because before I got to Buffalo, I was a captain in Washington, and they didn't sign me back. So that's pretty much saying, well, you're not good enough, at least in the player's mind. And so for me, I understood that whether I had to see on my chest or not, I was still Lorenzo Alexander, a leader in a locker room. And so as I transitioned to the next team, I tried to carry those same type of traits with me, and just being the same guy, because that's what got me there. And so I think as I transition away from the game, obviously no longer even being able to be in a locker room, I'm very thankful for men like Darryl that showed me what it looked like life after football, talked about their struggles. I knew who I was as a man, that it wasn't solely wrapped up in football defining who I was, but understanding that football was just merely a vehicle for myself. But it just shifted with me and my wife now leading our kids to be great human beings, trying to impact our community. So I think that's how I've kind of handled it. And I try to also let other people try to see that as well, because you still are who you are, even once you have left that team. And now you just have to be able to have the wherewithal just to transfer to that next thing. And that's the hard part, right, Darryl? And guys, what's that next thing that I can, figuring that out. And so that's probably been the hardest part, but I still try to be a leader in every aspect of where I'm at, whether it's at home, community, mentoring, still trying to live those same principles that I did when I was in the locker room every day.
As I think, all of us are proud men, and we want to do our best for ourselves and for our organizations. And then I think the day comes that you move on and there's a change made. But, again, it's part of it, continuing to just move forward and try to have those same values that you had that earned you that captaincy. I think is a big part of it, and understanding that regardless of what's on your chest as far as the letter, you've got to continue to be that same person, that same player, and try to lead by example.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, Stu, I think that's key, because we often as captains, we talk about, hey, you need to just do your job, your role, right? Do your job.
Yeah.
And then that C gets taken away from you, or something's traded, and now you're faced with the same advice you've been giving somebody.
Exactly.
So I think that's even a bigger moment when that C is taken away or you get traded, to really reinforce who you said you were and what you're trying to call other people to be. And they say, oh, man, Stu just did that. They traded him and he's still the same dude. He was talking. It validates who you were and what you were saying.
That is true. I have to agree with you, Lorenzo.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Lorenzo, you are absolutely correct.
Well said, Lorenzo. Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
And Lorenzo, your retirement came at such a pivotal moment for our nation. You found a way to use your voice in speaking out about racial injustice, which is a topic that's dominating our news feed, our thoughts, and our streets right now. So how have you been using your voice as a leader during this time?
I think the biggest thing I've been trying to do is just try to be a bridge. That same thing as I talked about earlier in the locker room. You have so many different people in the locker room that come from different places, different thought processes, different beliefs, and trying to just bring people together and move forward and find solutions. And so it's really been cool to still be part of the social justice social change committee that we have with the Bills, and working with Kim and having town hall talks and discussions, and partnering with Players Coalition, doing continuing my work with the ACES Foundation in Buffalo as well as Oakland. And so just trying to be a part of it instead of just getting on social media and saying, woe is me and this is how bad it is, but trying to bring solutions and change. And I think collaboration as we move forward, just trying to encourage and inspire people and not necessarily point the finger, but just educate and move forward with that new wisdom and understanding and relationship collectively as a country.
For the rest of you, if you guys were captains now going through this world that Maddie's talked about, racial injustice being high on the priority scale and COVID being a global pandemic, how do you think it might change your kind of day-to-day role as a captain, Danny?
Well, that's a good question, Duffer. I think, Lorenzo, it's great to see what he's doing and trying to change the world and make it a little better for everyone, racially and just wise. The pandemic to me, I think, is something that, you know, is new to everybody as far as how we can help with the situations. Locally here, I've worked with a group called Connect Life, and what they do is they are big on blood donations, okay? And I think with the situation with all our first responders and the hospitals, blood is very important to keep people alive. And I know that there's a number of different events that we still try to do and to try to not only raise awareness, but to get more blood donors in the area, because most of it stays in this area to most hospitals. So I guess you try to do what you can do. It's a difficult time, and you hope that everything works out okay down the road.
I don't think it would have changed me any, because I'm that type of person that I believe we're all put here to do one job, and that's to live life to the fullest. And I think that if I would have had to deal with this situation, how would I have dealt with it? I tell them, look, we all have to get along no matter what. And if you don't like that, because I grew up during most of it, I had to actually face a lot of the things that people are talking about. When you're doing that and you're that kid that looks different from everybody else, trying to find acceptance is hard. Yeah. Because look at me, for example. Imagine me, a little kid, black, hair parted, combed over to the side, go to a 98% all black high school. So I had to fight all the way from 5th grade to 10th grade. So I fought every day. So I understand that. And I guess I became a little callous, because I started looking at people, and people would say I'd look at you like I'm crazy and I'm ready to just destroy you. Well, yeah, because those are some of the anger issues that I would have built up inside of me from having to deal with all of these things and not having anywhere to express yourself except for to your parent. It could be a bit trying for a young guy, especially a guy 17 years old.
Darryl, thank you for sharing that story. I know our community is so thankful to have legends and leaders like you and Lorenzo who are using your voice for change, whether that's to educate or to inspire or to just share tough stories like that.
All right, let's get ready for the Labatt Blue Lightning round. And these answers are quick. They are spontaneous. They need no explanation. Short answers are appreciated. Maddie, why don't we dive into our favorite question first for all the guys? What's the tougher sport, more difficult sport to play, hockey or football?
Go ahead, Stu.
All right, yeah, I'll take that.
I'll give it up. I know what it is. I'm gonna give it to football. I mean, not football. I'm sorry, hockey. I can't skate. I can't skate.
You can't skate, Lorenzo?
No, I can't skate. I got my son. My sons love it. They get around, but watching them dudes, and when you get down on the ice and how fast and moving on ice and hit caps and staying up, man, that's impressive to me.
All right, I'll return the favor, Lorenzo. I'm going to say football. I just, it's amazing. Same thing. When you get down near that field, you see how fast the players are and big and strong they are. It's amazing. And yeah, tons of respect for guys that are able to play football, no question.
I'm with Lorenzo. I say hockey because I can skate, Lorenzo. I can skate and I can skate forward, but I can't skate backwards.
I couldn't believe how big you guys were. I mean, it was like, I was like a little pipsqueak compared to, I'm looking up like this. I'm going, whoa, if these guys could skate, we could have great hockey teams. I said, but
that's the only problem. We couldn't do it.
Yeah, so I'm going to get you guys some synthetic ice that I have to help your sons so that they can play hockey called can ice, all right? They would love it.
All right, sounds good.
I like it. All right, so during this pandemic, we have all heard the term playoff bubble more than a couple times now, whether that's the NBA or the NHL. So which teammate would you hang out with most if you were in a playoff bubble?
I would rock with Kyle Williams.
I don't
know if that still counts. We both retired, so I'm rocking with Kyle. Yeah, I mean, it's a group, but if you got to pick one.
It's 15 of us, man.
I'm going to say, Duffer, you guys will appreciate this. I'm going to say Marty Baron because
you
don't even have to say a word the whole time you're in the bubble. He'll just talk the entire time and entertain everybody. So
that will wear me out. I want somebody quiet. That will wear me out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll have to say I would love to hang out with my old lineys, Don Luce and Craig Ramsey. I mean, we were a checking line, but we were a tight group, and they were my big brothers when I played. Their wives were my big sisters. So yeah, those two guys especially.
Darryl, could you make your list any smaller now? Thinking about maybe 3 months with these people or with this person, whether it's someone who talks too much or doesn't talk enough. Still 15.
Still 15, because trust me,
Darryl, it's a tiny room. You can't bring 15.
Hey,
you have to have 6 foot distancing, you know?
With the 15 of us, it wouldn't matter. And the thing of it is, we'd be yelling at each other so much that you would think we were all in there fighting instead of talking to each other.
Those were the bickering Bills, right? Back then, Darryl?
That is exactly it. And that's why we were that way.
That's funny.
Okay, well, we'll continue in the bubble, but what unique item would you bring with you into that playoff bubble?
I gotta have my coffee machine. I don't know if it's unique, but I like my own coffee in a certain type of way. So I'm rocking with my coffee machine.
I'll agree with that one. Yeah, I think that would be the coffee machine too. That was my first thought, and I thought, but I agree. That's a good one. Yeah.
I'm a tea guy. I like to drink tea before I play.
Yeah, there you go. I think I'd bring my foot massager, the one I stick my feet in.
There you go.
Would you rather have a better offense or a better defense?
I say offense sells tickets, but defense wins championships.
There you go. Yeah.
100%. I agree. If you want to win, play defense. If you want to have a whole bunch of fun, just go play offense. So
yeah,
we did both.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
you did.
You did.
Who's the greatest player to play your position?
Lawrence Taylor.
I'm gonna rock with Steve Tasker. I'm gonna stay with my special teams route. So Steve Tasker.
Wayne Gretzky for me was a centerman. Absolutely, I grew up watching him, and for me, he'll be the best ever.
I've got a couple. I've got Mike Bossy and Guy Lafleur, right wing.
Oh yeah.
All right. After retirement, everybody loves to adopt the game of golf as their new sport to play. So,
yes, we do.
What was your last golf score? I hope it was a good one.
Too many.
Go ahead, Darryl. Come on, Darryl. You're down south.
81.
81.
Oh,
81.
Okay.
That's impressive. Because I was 95 or 96, I believe, last time I played. Not proud of it.
I haven't got out there yet, so I'll be out there this weekend. So I'll be able to update you soon.
I was fortunate to play a course that I really enjoy here in Buffalo, where the Sabres have had their tournament for a while with the players at Wanaka, and I shot 77 the other day, so I was very happy. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Made some good putts, guys. Made some easy putts, you know.
If you could have played any other sport, what would it be?
Golf.
Golf.
It would be golf. I want to say golf, so I can walk around and be lazy.
Yeah. I'm with you.
And look at everybody.
They're going off all their hindsight 2020. That's all that wisdom speaking right now. But I would have been a hoop player. I mean, if I could have been anything growing up, I would have loved to have been a hoop player. Golf obviously is easy on the body.
Hey, Lorenzo.
You play a long time.
You know what else? And Darryl, the ball doesn't move. You know, it stays still. It doesn't move around. You don't get hit. You know.
I love the idea of a senior tour too, so you can have your career, and then when you're done,
forever.
you just keep going. Yeah, just keep playing. That's genius.
All right, you guys can take out your phone for this answer if you need to. Who's the last teammate that you texted?
Micah Hyde last night.
For me, it was Ole Kolzig.
Derek Smith.
Marcus Patton.
How do you order your wings?
I like my saucy. You know, I like
mine crispy as sauce on the side with blue cheese.
Blue cheese, gotta go with it.
Gotta have it.
I'm a Canuck, so I go mild but crispy.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm mild dipping my toe into medium sometimes.
Yeah.
No, hot.
Gentlemen, that wraps up the Labatt Blue Lightning round. It also brings us to the end of Captain's Circle for now. We are hoping that we can do a little more down the road, but we want to thank all of you guys for joining us today, all our guests along the way, our terrific production crew behind the scenes, and we will now gear up for the the return of football and hockey in Buffalo. Cheers, guys.